All right, February retreat in 2024. 2024. It feels like I was just listening to a podcast interview between Finnish musicians 2 hours ago. I used to be a musician. That's my training, professional training, and I was a music producer as well. But I was listening to this podcast and they were discussing their experiences, where they were when the millennium changed 24 years ago. And I guess it's one of those age things, but to me it seems like the year 2000, the new year 2000 was just, a couple of years ago, but it's been a quarter of a century already. The last 10 years, roughly, has gone so fast in my life because I had kids and I was married. I'm not married anymore, but that just kind of suddenly years disappear, like almost a decade disappeared. So how's your last decade been? The past, well, we now have 22 people. Some of them have already gone their own way, but we have 22 people who have realized the emptiness of all phenomena, or in technical terms, have finished purification of bhumis 1 through 10. And myself, in my case, it was in March 15th, 2021, when I did my morning practice, and exactly 9:05 a.m. I could feel finally the last little remnants dissipate. It felt exactly like, I remember that feeling very well, and I remember the previous weeks leading to that, because I had been quite focused. Not quite, that's like an understatement. I've been, like bulls when they see red cloth, that kind of focused on that task for so many years. And I remember the previous 6 weeks before that March 15th, 3 years ago, I kind of felt like just putting my feet up, kind of just relaxing. I knew that I felt, I remember it so clearly, like, there are the 6 bhumis, 6 centers here inside the head, 6 on top of each other between the level of the eyes and the crown, those small centers there that are then connected with the centers in the limbs. So bhumis 1 through 6 is all inside the skin, inside that space. And then there are the bodhisattva bhumis 7, 8, 9, and then 10 here in the aura. And I remember I had worked through the body space. First, of course, having all of the bhumis open, the stack above the head and inside the head. Going through that, it took me 5 or 6 years to open all bhumis. And then the perfection process, that took 2016, something like 5 years, 5+ years. So putting all that daily practice and all that contemplation that comes with it, and scratching your head, what is the problem here, what am I missing? That's an important question. What am I missing? I often say that, when you do your practice, your daily practice, try to notice something that you didn't notice before, instead of kind of just being aware or mindful in the same way as you were before. That will not work. And the reason for that is because you're not working with the same bumi for the rest of your life. So people plateau. One reason why people plateau is because they practice, their sensitivity doesn't develop, because they don't know to develop it. But a very simple way to develop sensitivity and not get stuck with energetical sensation is always try to notice something that you didn't notice before. It's obvious, isn't it? It's kind of like, I like to take, now it's already dark here in Slovenia, and I take short walks. We go outside with our dog Metta in the evenings, and it's kind of like being in the dark without any lights. And then, as the sight in darkness gets better, you try to see something that you didn't see before. Kind of like that. So anyway, through all those years I was working on my bumis and working on my emptiness inside. And I remember the last 6 weeks I felt like it's very unusual experience for me, but I felt like I could just relax. I kind of smelled and sensed that it was inevitably coming, and it was close, coming to the end of my bumi purification. So I felt like putting my feet up and just relaxing. And this has never happened to me before or since. So 6 weeks I was taking it easy, and I was just aware of my aura and doing my practice. And I remember that it wasn't even like a connected field, but it was just these tiny fragments of very subtle selfing on the 10th bumi layer, which means that, when you think about the aura, a little less than meter and a half away from the skin on all sides, 3-dimensionally, there was just a little bit of these fragments on the 10th bumi, and I remember it was like on this head level there. Kind of like if you think of the aura like an eggshell, or eggshell-like container, there was just a little bit something immediately inside the eggshell, inside the edge of the aura. And on that day in March, 3 years ago, at 9:05, I remember I was sitting on my bed. I often practice sitting on my bed, and I probably had sat for like few minutes. Maybe I asked blessings from my gurus, or maybe I didn't, but then I felt it. It was like, when you have thin mist early in the morning above a field, like a thin layer of mist, and it's kind of here and there. It's not a thick blanket of mist, but just a little bit. You can see it, that it's there if you look at it carefully. And then suddenly it was gone. And I knew that was it. I knew that I didn't have to work with bumis anymore. And I immediately grabbed my phone and recorded the video that can still be found from YouTube. There's something like 98 or 99 video clips of myself since 2013. And that's actually an interesting topic, documenting one's own progress. I often have the idea, but I never forgot to mention, I always forget to mention this, that you and people joining other retreats should take pictures before the retreat begins, selfies, and then take another one on Sunday or whenever the retreat ends and compare. And of course, when having shifts, whether they are shifts in bhumis or bhumi events or shifts when working with the meridian field, take selfies and or video clips, like half a minute, 1 minute long video clips where you just look at the camera. It's a wonderful way to document one's progress. And so I started doing it in 2013 after my second bhumi. I had my second major awakening experience. The thought of recording myself in that way didn't occur to me before that, but I had my first bhumi opening, my first awakening experience, like 1 year and 3 months before that. But anyway, I've been doing that documentation for 11 years now, documenting bhumi shifts, documenting some very important guru yoga experiences, and then after the bhumi process, documenting meridian purification. So I highly recommend you to do the same. And this is, of course, feeling into our energy and reading our energies and perhaps reading the energy of other Sangha members or even people from other traditions. It's something that we do in Amrita Mandala. Something very central, actually. And the reason for that is because we read energy like, what is that sport? Orienteering? Is that a sport? Orienting? When you run in the forest and you have a map and you have to find these things in the forest. Orienting? Something? Does it ring a bell at all? Okay, you know the sport. Okay. So we read energies and use it as a map. That's our path map. And using a map is extremely important when you are making a journey going through a path, isn't it? It's important in anything when we learn and study any type of art. It is important to know what we are doing and what the steps of learning are, what the steps of the process are, and how it all works. So path maps, I think it's a Buddhist invention, and in Buddhism there are lots of different path maps. In Theravada Buddhism, Mahayana, Vajrayana, many different different masters and different traditions have given their own path maps, definitions and commentaries of each stage of the path. And I think, I'm actually pretty sure, I've had the discussion with a number of lamas and scholars of Vajrayana Buddhism, and based on that, I'm certain that at one point, I have no idea when that could have been, but at some point energy reading was practiced, just like we do it. It was practiced within some small Vajrayana lineages. You know, in Mahayana Buddhism there are lengthy texts about 10 bhumis, bodhisattva bhumis, and what it means. But I think that it's a good question to ask, like, how did that idea or concept of bhumis, where did whoever started writing those sutras, how did that concept come about? It's a good question. But then another a problem that we stumble upon when reading many ancient scriptures is that they have been altered and changed, and often that means that the text and the meaning has been made bigger and grander and more magnificent than it actually is. This point has been, I remember American, or is he Canadian, Vajrayana Lama called Ken MacLeod. He said the same thing in one of his Dharma talks that, and it's true about Theravada texts as well, that the texts are edited and it becomes kind of, it puts so much distance, creates a gap between actual practitioners and the experiences that it doesn't make sense. And then there are people who, like myself, like some others, teachers who have pragmatic view and take on things, who try to, okay, calm down folks, you know, it's not that big and grand and huge, incomprehensible, that it's actually very down to earth, the meaning of Dharma. Garchen Rinpoche was one of those lamas who made it clear what bhumis mean, that it's simply, I have the direct quote in Buddhas Among Us in the book, but he made it clear that going through the bhumis simply means becoming more and more familiar with one's basic state. And he gave a brief description what the actual experience of the basic state is. So energy reading. So I don't think what Tantra means, it means energy work, working with energies, mingling with energies, and it's a specific type of energies that we are working with. When we are already in samsaric situation, it would not make sense. When we are stuck with the samsaric situations, like stuck with it, it doesn't make sense to work with more samsaric stuff. We first need to understand and experience that we have this already pure and perfect and complete wakefulness in us. And this wakefulness, this innate purity and perfection is who we are. That's who we are. That's not the nature, that's not only the nature of our bodies, but that's our identity. That's our identity, psychologically speaking. So when we are working with energy, and this is the gift of Mahasiddha Gurus. This is the gift of Padmasambhava to our Sangha and Mahasiddha Agastya. Because those two masters are the main masters who have given the practices of the two paths that we have. The path of wisdom and clarity, the Buddhist side, the Bhumi side, and then the path of healing and light, the light body meridian purification side. So this is true to all Tantra, to all Vajrayana, Buddhist, Hindu, or esoteric lineages of Taoism and so on, that we recognize the purity in us through different means, through different practices, in different ways, and then we establish that in our body and mind, in our energy. The idea is very simple, but somehow what is unfortunately the case, somehow, even though it is very simple, there are teachers or gurus who give empowerments about different practices or energies, pure energies, shaktis, meaning deities, and then also give verbal instructions actually how to do the practice, and then people practice it. And it is extremely simple how to do Vajrayana practice, how to do tantric practice, but often there are something missing, or even some flaws in instruction. And this is very unfortunate, because then people don't grow and they don't have the experiences that would help them to grow. And one of those very simple things, I've seen this not only in many tantric communities, but also other meditative and Buddhist communities, that there are lots of praying, lots of saying of mantras and dharanis, chanting of sutras, chanting of names of the lineage masters, chanting of Guru Yoga mantras and so on, basic prayers. But then people they're not told that there is this energetic charge coming from all of that, and that this charge we should absorb, feel and absorb. So something that is very I think obvious to Amrita Mandala practitioners who have been practicing for a couple of years, this very point. Not only doing some practices, doing, and after that standing up and going about other things, but doing the way how we practice is that we do practice a little bit. It's called external aspect. External aspect means doing some practice. So we do some external practice some technique, but I have always emphasized the importance of internal practice of Tantra, which means to recognize and to feel and take in the energetic charge. Blessings of a guru, that's a charge. Energetic blessings of deity that we might be practicing, or energetic sensation coming from some when working with channels and centers. So I have always emphasized internal sensation, and that's what practice of Tantra is. So external is kind of like if we think of a door and a lock, so, and a key, so external practice, repeating a mantra, doing visualization, breath work, mudras, that's the key. But there is no point, assuming that it's the correct key for the lock. There's no point in keep opening it like this if the door is already open, right? So there is no point in saying, chanting mantras for the rest of the day if the charge is already there, right? Common sense. And when the charge is there, you don't need the key anymore. You don't need the mantra anymore, the visualization anymore. Then you just surrender. Then you offer your body, heart and soul, your whole being. You absorb like a sponge absorbs humidity. That's how it actually feels and happens. External, internal and secret. The secret is our own basic state. What does that mean? Basic state means that throughout our journey we have glimpses of our original purity. Glimpses. Glimpses, awakening experiences, cessations. When we directly experience these ourselves as none other than fully enlightened beings, Buddhas, Mahasiddhas. That's the secret. I mean the secret aspect. It's not actually a secret, but that's the secret aspect if we speak of external, internal and secret. These three. This is like these three categories, it's a classification from Buddhist Tantra. These terms are used. So we all have this basic nature. Doesn't matter what happened to us in life. Doesn't matter how we feel or what we think. I am not taking a step to like a neo-non-dualism, neo-Advaita here. Just bear with me. So it doesn't matter what our views are. We always had this basic nature. And it is because we have it why we became interested in awakening, enlightenment, Dharma, and why we became practitioners. It is because of who we are. There is nothing more fundamental in terms of, how do you say, existence or psychology than who we already are, the nature that we already have. Nothing more profound than that. Nothing more profound about any forms of life. So, when I said that Tantra is energy work, first we need to find out what this basic nature of ours is and how the energy of our basic nature feels like. This idea is something that whether we are working with opening the first bhumi or through the two-part formula, or whether we are working with any other later bhumi, or whether we are working with meridians early in our meridian purification or later in advanced stage. This same principle applies. Always recognize the pure basic nature first. Because like I said, if you're stuck with samsaric stuff, you have to first pop that, get out of that grip, get out of the chokehold of that samsaric energy and recognize the basic purity first. So let's start there together. So from the beginning, very important to really understand and remember it throughout our journeys is that we have the same perfect nature in us as all the past and present masters have. We already have it. It's all over the nadi system. All nadis, the thin channels, they have two layers, outer and inner layer. And the inner layer always rests in the state of purity. The outer layer stores karmas. Same principle, two layers are true to meridians. Meridians that only run inside the physical body, they don't extend or continue outside the skin. Same is true. Two modes in meridians. And same is true to the body as well. About cells. If it wasn't true, it wouldn't be possible to make the body, integrate it with our basic nature. This light body, rainbow body, the subject of it is very central to Amrita Mandala. Very important. Central teaching. Clear like a diamond, colorful like a pure rainbow, stable as a mountain. But also a very dynamic energy. It's like there happens to be a river on our backyard, quite, well, 12 meters, the width of it. So like a big river. But all rivers, there's a dynamic current of water flowing through. Same with our basic state. It is not like some static, dull, lifeless experience. No, the opposite of that. Even our physical bodies is a testimony of that. There's so much dynamic activity. So many dynamic processes. When we are stuck with samsaric views and habits, we separate ourselves from others. We put distance between ourselves and others, ourselves and environment. But when we recognize this basic nature, that notion, that habit isn't there suddenly. Suddenly there's no distance, no separation. And we can check if this is true. There is the absolute bodhicitta and there is a relative bodhicitta. As practitioners who acknowledge that we are samsaric, we generate bodhicitta. That's relative practice. We generate to break our habits and patterns and to see through them. But from the absolute perspective, all beings and all life, all forms of life, are already with us. This is kind of an advanced point. So, but let's do this in practice. So let's see. I'm giving all these pointers and pointing out different things, giving little tools. That's how I always teach. So if you are a beginner, you're not supposed to understand. If you understand just a little bit of this session, that is already enough. But then I'm giving these tools and giving these pointers so that you can work with them. You can work on them on your own after the retreat. There's something for you to work on. So a simple way to test if our recognition of the basic state is correct and if all beings are already with us is by saying bodhisattvic prayers. And if there is let's see, I'll explain it through doing it. So, there are beings around us, people, other forms of life are everywhere around us in the physical space. Neighbors in the same building, neighbors in houses next door, people in the same village or city, people in our country. So this life is already surrounding us, everywhere around us. Now that I already mentioned it, your mind started you started bringing your awareness or attention to the space, physical space where these beings are. If the clarity and softness and groundedness, there was no change in that, you already had correct recognition. But if there was the experience becoming fuller as you expanded your attention, then it was simply the experience, your recognition became fuller. So if I say on behalf of all of us, that may all these people and animals and plants and natural elements, may they all be free and happy, in peace and harmony. May they truly be at peace. May they truly be free. See how your energy shifts and see how it doesn't shift. May all these beings around us be blessed by the basic wakefulness, by the Buddha, by the pure being inside them. A simple prayer and then feeling into it. external, internal. This charge and the quality of the charge, quality of the energy, qualities of it is our own basic nature. From one perspective, from the wisdom pragya perspective, there is no small self, no entity, me or I. No small self. It's selfless, or is the word devoid of self? Devoid, is that a word? Thank you, Ben. It's without this entity that people usually, in daily life say, I this, I that, me this, me that. And that kind of entity is absent. It's simply not there. That's what emptiness means. And going through the bhumis, it simply means releasing different kinds of notions of entityness, releasing them. But from a different perspective, from psychological perspective, this charge, this energy, loaded with dynamicity, love, kindness, groundedness, loaded with groundedness, isn't it? That's what the I is. That's our identity. So it is not some impersonal energy. No, very personal. Completely personal. And that's the beauty of it. The immense beauty of it. We are not psychologically injured creatures, traumatized creatures after all, but very full, complete beings. Complete. Like Padmasambhava, like Ishanath, Jesus Christ, like so many other masters who attained light body. We are exactly the same. Stay with the charge. Lie down for some time. I'll let you know when to get up. We still have little time, so let's continue practice a little bit. Often the last thing, especially on the first evening, is to chant Bodhisattva vows and basic prayers. But instead of that, I would like us to chant together the mantra of the close group of gurus behind Amrita Mandala practices, the so-called Amrita gurus. So there is the bigger group of Mahasiddhas called Mahasiddha family, about 50 Mahasiddhas from Tibetan Buddhist traditions, Taoism, Hinduism. But then there is the core group of gurus. Garab Dorje, Padmasambhava, Yeshe Tsogyal, Machig Labdron, Dampa Sangye from the Buddhist side. And then Agastya, Tirumular, Babaji and Mataji, as well as Ishanath, Jesus, and Isha's guru, Maranath, from the Hindu side. So it's this group that the following mantra refers to. I will actually write it to the chat window so you can Om Amrita Gurubhyo Namaha. So the mantra refers to the mentioned group of gurus, the main gurus behind Amrita Mandala. So I will chant twice and then chant with me for a couple of minutes. Om Amrita Gurubhyo Namaha. 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 Thanks from our hearts to our gurus, masters, prostrations at the feet of the gurus. And let's chant relative bodhicitta 3 times and dedication of merit. May all beings be free. May all beings be free. May all beings be free. May all beings receive my accumulated merit. I dedicate the merit to the refuge and to all sentient